Hi, I'm the Nomad Producer with StartProducingMusic.com. I'm releasing a cool workshop covering bird school from beginning to end, in which you get to practice your music production skills, giving you assignments, sample packs, and a production you can add to your portfolio. There are a few approaches when it comes to mixing drums. The first is to use the overhead and room mics for the overall tone of the drums and use the close mics just for transient and mild tone shaping. And the second approach is to use the close mics for the dominant tone shaping of the drums and use the overhead and rooms for just timbral uses. Because these drums were recorded for a different song that required different sonics, and I imported these drums just for their part but not for their sound, it required quite a lot to bring them where I wanted them to be, and a few very non-conservative methods. The main track I used as an overhead is actually the rooms. I didn't use the overhead track, it just didn't suit this production, and it originally sounds like this. And now with processing, pretty extreme, I know. Let's go through this step by step. Just a sec. Did you subscribe yet? First thing I've done was to tame the highs here, and apparently there was a resonance that bothered me. I'm assuming I have inserted this after I've inserted this distortion. So you can notice that the distortion brings a lot of aggression and kind of compresses it. I'm using this more as a compressor. Let's bypass the pre-distortion EQ and unbypass it while the distortion is on to notice what the effect is. The hi-hat kind of pops out and it's unbalanced, and more than anything I think this suits the R&B kind of textures more than anything. Then there's an instance of trash, which is another beautiful distortion. I'm filtering the source before it goes to the saturator, which I see is pretty violent, and then compressing it. All right, so let's give this a listen. That first EQ probably came in after I've inserted trash because the high frequencies are wild, and it really brings up aggression and squeezes completely different emotions from this track. Then I've inserted a chorus, which is not a very common thing to do on an overhead, but let's see what this does. As you might have noticed, the mix knob is dialed down to 14%, and what I feel it does is it creates more dimensionality and more depth. It's not really noticeable, but it still does a very good job. After the chorus, I'm putting a phaser. This is 32% wet. Let's listen to this. This is a bit more noticeable, and it does create this movement in the frequency spectrum which we can feel and hear. And finally, this EQ. So I'm filtering these frequencies from the side information, which means that all my low energy will be in mono. Then I'm also filtering from the whole panorama 90 Hertz and below, and taming the high frequencies again. Let's listen to this. Kind of plays around with, again, the aesthetics, which kind of suit the lo-fi R&B kind of feel, and where the kit is placed inside the room kind of feels different now. Notice this. And I'm setting into a widener, the Studio D, to create more dimensionality. Let's listen to this. This is bypassed. So this widens the sound. It's actually another chorus. I'm not using this track a whole lot in the whole mix. As you can see, it's minus 38.5 dB in the verses. In the choruses, I think I automated a bit higher because there are more cymbals, but in this mix, I've used the close mics and triggers as the main elements of the drum kit. So let's go to the kick.